Good morning and welcome to Coffee and Conversations with the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. We are very excited today to welcome Elizabeth Lusskin, Executive Vice President of Small Business and Technology at Empire State Development. The program will begin in approximately 1 minute.
And allow me to drink my coffee.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Conversation with Elizabeth Lusskin from Empire State Development, Executive Vice President of Small Business and Technology. We are so grateful that Liz has joined us today for an informal conversation about New York, our economy, and all of the tools that are being offered by Empire State Development. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lisa Soren, the President of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. Lisa?
Thank you, and good morning, one and all. So this Coffee and Conversation, I think, have been going amazing. These series to get our members to better understand opportunities, legislation, get to know some faces behind some powerful organizations. And I am thrilled that Elizabeth Lusskin is here with us today. I consider her a friend and coming back from our former lives as bid directors. And we're really looking forward, Liz, to hearing what you've been up to, all the opportunities that our businesses may have through your new position, and congratulations. Mike, as always, thank you for taking the leadership within our legislative conversations and all you do. So I will turn it back over to you and be taking fabulous notes, Liz, as you walk us through your amazing new position. And welcome.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Lisa. Liz, we are so delighted to have you. One, we know that you know business because you were a small business owner for quite some time. You know the ins and outs of city government, serving as a deputy commissioner for New York City SBS, general counsel to the Downtown Alliance, legislative counsel to the New York State Office of Federal Affairs. You've been beyond instrumental in shaping what Long Island City is and looks like and how it engages with business and residents and developers, and have really put New York City on the map in so many different ways. And also, beyond that, your service as co-chair of the Sunnyside Yard Master Plan Steering Committee, the Amazon Community Advisory Committee, the New York City Bid Association, and the Chief of Staff and Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at the Polytechnic Institute of NYU. You have such an amazing resume. And Empire State Development is so lucky to have you. Hope Knight, I hope she's hearing, or she'll hear this, because you are an absolute gem to the city of New York, and we're so happy to have you here with us today. And you can blush, it's okay, it's coffee and conversation. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Empire State Development and your role there? And we're excited because you can leverage your previous experience, and you can really drill down on what business owners really want to know. And we are joined with people on our Zoom, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook audience. So we'll be fielding questions in the Q&A box, and at the end we'll go through some of those. But take it away, Liz.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I am so thrilled to be back with my colleagues Lisa and Michael. I've spent decades working in and around neighborhood economic development, and it was wonderful when I went to Long Island City Partnership to be back amongst my bid colleagues and just working with you guys in the best of times, but through the very dark times that we all went through in the COVID pandemic and are still struggling to come out of. Such a special experience to have such amazing colleagues, mentors in many ways, role models, and just working with both of you, just amazing. And the work is very impactful and often goes unheralded. And so it's really again, great support system. I don't know how I would have professionally made it through without your companionship and great leadership as well. So it is exciting to be taking the experience of working in and amongst many neighborhoods in New York City, now out into the broader state. So I joined Empire State Development, which is the state's economic development arm, on June 1st of this year. So I'm still, I think, in my period where I can say I don't know everything yet, and there's a lot to learn. The agency does a lot of great things. I run a division called Small Business and Technology Development, which encompasses 5 different subsections. One is entrepreneur assistance and development. I will talk about that in a moment. Another involves supporting technology and innovation across the state, with a lot of it through universities and incubators. I also have the New York Ventures, which is the venture arm of New York State. So we have a fund that invests in, as we say, underrepresented and underappreciated founders. And I have the capital access portfolio, which involves mostly loan products that help increase the access to capital, again, by those who traditionally had trouble accessing capital, generally at not only access, but also access at better rates, and a lot of help for contractors who are doing work with government. And I have the life sciences portfolio as well. So it's a lot going on. And I'll walk through a couple of those different arms of things just to give some grounding, but then I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about the State Small Business Credit Initiative that we are in the process of rolling out. So again, just very quickly, and if I'm going to try and do the dreaded screen share and see if I can make that work. So I just want to point out, so has that worked? Can you now see the Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers?
Yes.
So first, I'm just going to point out the 2 in the Bronx. This is a network that we have throughout the state of centers that work directly with entrepreneurs and early stage companies, as well as others in general, just to both do basic business boot camp kind of training, but also help connect people to the different resources, programs, et cetera, that they might be eligible for. So in the Bronx, we have 2, Sobro, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and Bach Bronx out of the BXL Business Incubator. But there's a variety. Basically, you can, depending on what you need within our network of about, I think it's 20 centers, if there's a different language or there's an expertise for the kind of business that you have, and it might be somebody up in the North Country who's worked particularly with your kind of business, we will connect you with anyone there. So the businesses, so we have the entrepreneur assistance centers provide technical assistance, as I was mentioning, to businesses on all these issues, helping to find working capital, cash flow management, management skills, et cetera, hiring. So there's a lot of things that we can help you with there. On the innovation support, we have business incubators. Again, I didn't pull up the list, but throughout the state and in the Bronx and in the rest of the city. But we also have a number of other programs that I just want to point out a couple of things. And this is our website, esd.ny.gov. The Manufacturing Extension Partnership is a federal program that we manage. And I know that in the Bronx, there are a number of great manufacturers, and we provide these services there as well. So we have partners, again, like we have on the EICs, who can help you with all of these issues. So basically, both taking your technology, turning it into manufacturing, but also when you're ready to grow your manufacturing company, you're looking for resources and so on. So I just wanted to point those out. And again, the access to capital programs, all of these things are here. And I would say we have a lot of programs, and the question is always figuring out which one is good for you. So that's why going through the EACs, or we have an ombudsperson here who can help as well to help people figure out what's right for them. But the State Small Business Credit Initiative, I'm just gonna switch screens for a moment and go to this one. Let me do screen share again. And I apologize. The slideshow function is putting it on the wrong screen, and I don't have time to figure it all out. So I'm going to do it in this format. But the American Rescue Plan Act was the big federal COVID support program that was passed in 2021. And one part of it was this State Small Business Credit Initiative. So it's a program managed by Treasury, and every state is eligible for an allocation based on a variety of things, population, et cetera, et cetera. And it's to help small businesses recover by getting access to capital, to equity investments, and other great opportunities there. So New York State, these are the kinds of programs, capital access. So we're helping those like CDFIs and others to make loans to small businesses, particularly disadvantaged ones, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's a variety of other kinds of programs. Again, a lot of them end up being loan type of products, but different ways, because in different circumstances, you might need different kinds of help. So for your general business operations, you might need certain kind of lending, but if you're a contractor doing work with government, there's other things you're going to need to make you robust enough to get through the arduous process of working with government, and providing special things like bonding, insurance, and so on that you might not need on an ordinary job. One thing I should mention also that I'm not going into, but I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the New York State Contract Reporter, which is where all of the procurements that the state is engaged in are listed. Particular emphasis on helping MWBEs and veteran-owned businesses and disadvantaged-owned businesses find out about those opportunities. But it's something that if you are interested in supplying to government, not just being a contractor on a capital program, but let's say you have a paper goods company or other kinds of services, you do building services, there might be agencies who are looking to procure those kind of services, and you want to be in front of them. So the New York State Contract Reporter is a great resource, and Chris McCann runs that for us. She is a wonderful human being, and if you have any trouble figuring that out, she will walk you through, hand-hold you the whole process. So it's terrific. And again, that's another thing that the Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers can help you get set up with. So we say we're expected to receive an allocation in New York State of 501.6. We've been approved for the program that we are planning to do. It's just that you have to spend money to get your next set of money. So the faster we deploy, the quicker we get the rest of our money, and we will get the rest of our money if we spend our money. So we are rolling out with this money 10 different programs, which I'll talk about in a moment. But a very key part of this initiative is socially and economically disadvantaged owned business. So this is the target population for participation in these programs. So this is, and I'll talk about what this is, but basically the programs I'm going to talk about, everyone's eligible for, but there is a particular emphasis on trying to make sure that Seti-owned businesses get to have access to this capital and tools. So there's 11, I believe, criteria that affect Seti. Just as an overall thing, I will say that it includes certified MWBEs, DBEs, but it is not limited to them. So a SETI, the idea of SETI is to get beyond just the very those traditional based classifications for disadvantage, and include a broader range of disadvantages that might have kept people from getting access to capital, opportunity, and so on. So you'll see it's quite broad: membership of a group that has been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias within American society, gender, veteran status, limited English proficiency, physical handicap, but also long-term residence in an an area isolated from the rest of society, Indian tribe, rural community, U.S. territory, residents in a community undergoing economic transition. So this includes those that are experiencing a shift towards net zero economy or deindustrialization, so climate change and so on. Members of another underserved community is a sort of a catch-all, but that includes residents, business enterprise that can say that they are controlled by people who live in CDFI investment areas, which we know we have a lot of in New York City and in the Bronx, or that will certify that they will operate in a CDFI investment area, and businesses that are located in those areas. So again, we're adding the feds added to the characteristics of the individual, the characteristics of the area in which the business is operating. So very powerful, very broad. So then every state has a target for how much of the funds get to particularly those. It could be more. And this is based on census tracts and all kinds of wonderful things. So for New York State, our objective is over 40%. And we are not worried about meeting that. But it puts a big emphasis on really pushing out information. And that's why I'm excited to have this opportunity to talk to you all today about this. So all of this is on our website. And I think, and I'll stay in here for just a moment for the program plan. So how are we going to spend all this money? So first of all, we have a series of debt side programs. So it's a capital access. We are, and now I'm going to, I think I'm going to switch now to the website just because it's a good place for you all to be comfortable with, and I want to make sure that you see where that is. So it's very easy to find this. All you have to do is do ESD or New York State SSBCI or ESD. But the actual web link is esd.gov/SSBCI, and you will see there all of this information. And there's tiles about almost all of the programs that we're doing right now. So I should say that we've just got our allocation approved this August. We are in the process of getting all of our individual programs set up. Some of them are, and a lot of what that will mean is signing on partners like CDFIs and other kinds of organizations who are going to be the ones making the loans or the investments. So we're in that stage now. And I'll just quickly go down to the bottom here because this is really key. If you're interested in any of these programs, sign up on this page. So again, that's esd.ny.gov/SSBCI. And maybe if somebody could help me and just put that in the chat, that would be great. And you can click here and you can say which of the programs so far that you're interested in, you want to know about. You can click up for all of them, and then you will be on the email list to get information as it is available. So this is all, I'm telling you about things that you can't apply for yet, but to be prepared. And we will be rolling out these programs over the course of the fall. Again, some of that will be signing up the partners who will then be doing the programs next year, but stay on top of things. So again, there's a bunch of different programs, and there's more information on each here. And we're also developing a nice rubric to help you focus on the ones that will be most useful to you. But again, a lot of it depends on what you're doing with the money, which kind of program you will want to use. And we will have technical assistance providers, again, through our Employment Entrepreneur Assistance Center and others, who will be there to handhold and help you focus on what you need. The Capital Loan Fund, which is a new project, a new fund for us, will provide direct loans for the growth of manufacturing and other eligible businesses within the state. So this is about financing part of the cost of acquiring and renovating existing buildings or constructing new buildings or machinery. This is not for passive real estate, but this is for active projects. So there's highlights here of what the program can do, and what it's eligible, what kinds of costs it's eligible for, and so on. A lot of these, it's important to know what you can't do, right? So it's not for retail, it's not for hotels or residential, it's not for purchasing cars, working capital, and there's of course all kinds of requirements for different things, and then how to apply. So right now it's about contacting Ray, who runs formerly from the Bronx. I mean, still of the Bronx, but to get information. But again, we're starting work with that program. You can reach out. So I'm not going to go through every single one of the programs because it would take all day. But I just want you all to realize that there's a variety of different programs. And again, like for example, if you're doing contracting, construction work, and you need to have a bond, that work bonded, there's have created this program to help you get that bonding, which can be difficult and expensive. So what we're doing is helping the bonding companies feel confident to put up the bond for you by providing guarantees for the bond lines and helping reduce the costs. So again, a lot of important things here. So we again, just keep looking. So I want to get up to the equity programs. So we are also putting about 3/5 of the money into our equity side of things. So this is where we currently have a fund where we make seed to Series A, sometimes Series B investments. So these are investments to help innovative companies get to the point where they can raise all the money that they need to do the great things that they do and come to scale. And there's a variety of ways that we help out, both through different business competitions that are statewide that one should be aware of and so on. But we do make those direct investments. But with this money, we are also going to be funding funds, particularly funds run by disadvantaged, emerging funders. So funds that are run by folks who are not, we are trying to both in terms of who's running the funds and geographically where the funds are operating, increase the diversity of capital for venture in the state. So we'll be helping these emerging fund leaders and regional partners to, so that's here. So if you know somebody who has a fund, an investment fund who would like to apply for this program, we're getting that set up. We are also going to, through the Community Regional Partner Fund, there's a variety of accelerators, and we're going to, and incubators, we're going to put more money into the companies that are coming out of those. But we're also developing now a pre-seed and seed matching fund program. So if you think about this, a lot of people get their businesses off the ground, and this is for, again, not just it's not for a retail business, but you new technology, new idea, that you go to your friends and family. So this is for those who may or may not have friends and family, but their friends and family's pockets don't run all the way, to the pot of gold. So trying to support innovators, diverse innovators at an even earlier stage in the process. So we're in the process of setting up the mechanics for that. And then we'll have another, we're going to put some more money into our regular venture fund. So again, throwing a lot at you. If any of it intrigues you, please make sure you sign up to receive information. And hopefully there's something here that can help you or someone you know or your community, and you will take advantage of it. So that was a lot to hit you all with. The beautiful thing is I have wonderful people who work for me who know all of these programs in much more detail than I do. Again, it's another reason to look at the tiles on the website and connect with folks, but happy to be a resource.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. And I think Lisa has a couple questions on her side, and then there's some questions in the chat box and on the web that we'll go through if you're good with that.
Yes, thank you, Liz, for that. It is definitely a lot of information, but I have a three-parter. The first one will be under STEDI program. What does the certification process look like to be demonstrated on underserved population?
It's a self-certification process. I don't have the form. So that's something that we can, it would actually be a good thing to make more prominent on the page. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest problems that we have had, and I'm not sure if this falls completely under the conversation we just had with you, is a lot of these, so the Bronx has a lot of micro businesses, entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenge, has been being able to qualify for all of these amazing programs. We have our Small Business Resource Network with some great individuals that work in the chamber who I hope are listening in. But I think that out of the thousands of businesses that we have worked with, the biggest challenge is how do we get micro businesses to be able to access all these amazing programs that are available or will become available through your entity?
So right now we're just in the middle of a program that micro businesses can apply for. It's been extremely well subscribed. So I didn't get into this just because we had to focus on this, but the state has just completed an $800 million COVID relief small business grant program and is launched it's called the SEED program, but it's not seed from a venture side, right, which is available to micro businesses for some more COVID assistance. I think that and first of all, I should have mentioned the resource network. It's fantastic, and the Small Business Resource Network, and our friend Meredith oversees the whole network, which is great. But it's been amazing what the chambers have done with that. So very valuable partners there as well. Thank you. Other than these COVID grants, a lot of what the state does on the financial side for small businesses is support capital access. And so if you're in that realm where you are needing financing, there's a lot of tools, but that implies a certain level of size of operation, right? Where you're eligible for that. I would say that the Entrepreneur Assistance Network is really there also to help micro businesses, there to help entrepreneurs, right? It's not the Small Business Assistance Network, it's the Entrepreneur Assistance Network. And the kinds of services that they provide are, I think, very useful whether you're going to stay a micro business, but also especially if you're going to grow and get yourself ready to be someone who's looking for capital access. So it's a continuum. And I should say also that, the state is, we look to find the gaps that we can fill, right? So if the city is doing something very robustly, or any of the cities, that's not where we need to step in. So like, for example, the $800 million program was for people who did not get the federal relief, did not get the city relief. And, we found there was a layer of people whose businesses just had not met the criteria. So we created a new program to do that. Similarly, with the $200 million seed program, there were businesses that had not been in business long enough to get the other program. So this is for not just micro businesses, but businesses that started really just before and during the pandemic. So we're always looking for those gaps, but at the same time, we can't do everything. So I would say that the getting that technical assistance to folks through the network, the Entrepreneur Assistance Network, is a great place to start, because again, there's two parts. One is you need to know what resources are there for you, whether it's through the state or others, but the other is being ready to receive them. And so getting that assistance on how to get your business in order, right? How to get your, what kind of financial documents you need, what kind of, how are you going to run your business efficiently? All of those things can actually get you to the point where you can then spend the time thinking about how am I going to grow, and not just how am I going to stay alive, which is, number one. I was at the MWBE conference for the state last week on a panel about financing, and the question was, when should you start preparing for a loan? And the answer from all of us was yesterday. You need to have your you need to know what the financial documents are that you're going to need, and organizational documents. You need to have them current. You need to have them handy. You need to have them online in a PDF or whatever. And then you can start talking to people at CDFI, at community lenders and others about, okay, what do I need capital for? How can I get it? And you're ready to go. But I think we're in a big, complicated, noisy city, but there's actually, to use a Harry Potter analogy, there is always help at Hogwarts for those who ask for it. And finding the resources, finding the chamber, finding Sobro, finding anybody who's the right person for you to talk to. And when you get somebody who's going to handhold you through this, milk it for all it's worth, because that will then set you up for being able to navigate this admittedly confusing array of,
Right.
I have like 40 programs in my portfolio. The city has a bunch, the feds have a bunch. How do you access all this? You can only do that when you're working with partners who are there to help you.
That's amazing.
For free, by the way.
So, and then selfishly, you mentioned something, so I'm going to put it out there. We're very familiar with Sobro, we're very familiar with Bach, but to your point, which I'm glad you brought it up, we have a lot of people that come to the chamber. So, and we have our team that's consistently on this learning curve and trying to do exactly what you're saying. What are the checkpoints, the training, train the trainers. How does a chamber become one of the resource entities and add it to that list so that businesses know that we could be one of those also? How do you become a Sobro and a Bach for your state?
Well, there's there's how to apply online for the EAC, so that's sorry. We have stuff on here, and you can look at the RFPs when they come out. But I would also say that for SSBCI, we are having a separate set of technical assistance partnerships. and the RFPs for those will be coming out. And if it matches up, you can maybe become a hired partner. But as you know, we are always thrilled to activate the resource and partner with you on a more informal basis, doing events like this. When we have webinars on these, as we build out specific programs, we would love to be able to come back and walk people through, with you, sharing technical assistance, sharing the actual information. And you guys have always just been great partners to get information out to the community. We view you as a trusted resource. So both in that informal way, even if the formal way may not suit. I mean, it might not suit you. Unfortunately, as you know, contracting with government
It's challenging.
It's challenging. So sometimes, although we're working on making that easier for everybody, but we always, we have a list of who we pump information out to the community through, of people who we know will get into the right ears, and so we always send the chamber anything that we're trying to push out, and we thank you for your help in getting the word out.
Fantastic. And then my last, sorry, Mike, I have taken over, is when decisions are being made, and this may be a much higher, since the funding comes federally, who decides the qualifications? Because I'll be honest with you, I think another major challenge has been when the state, the feds, whoever makes these decisions, decide the qualifications or the checkpoints that need to be made. And sometimes they're so outrageous, respectfully, that we look at this and we're like, well, none of this applies to our businesses. Is there a committee, a group, an entity that determines the qualifications selfishly for New York City or New York State, that organizations like ours or partners within the same industry can have a say as to what would make sense for the target audience in which we serve?
So some strong language there, outrageous. And so on.
I'm trying to keep it broad, but and this really comes
look,
back from the feedback from my specialists who are out there speaking and really pushing these amazing grants. And without a doubt, we try to stay away from loans because of, post-COVID capital cash flow is a very difficult thing. But we've had these conversations on many levels, and not to put you or anybody else on the spot, but it's a question that I continue to ask: who are the decision makers, and how do we put our 2 cents in there?
Right. So first of all, I certainly, I'm glad to have had the experience working with small business owners, running an organization, a small organization, running my own consulting company and so on, into practice where I can to say. And I will say that as I've come in and seeing how we tweaked the 800 million as it was closing down to make sure we scooped up people who may have, there was a $1 profitability requirement that we took away at the end, and so on. So people are really, really trying here to learn from the experience, and the seed program that just went out, you saw, it was much simpler to apply for.
Right.
So at each level, and honestly, the state, stood up that $800 million program in like a month, and it was something that had never been done before, ever. And we worked with a company that produced an online portal so that was easier, and so on. But one can always do better. I would say that, for example, all this money on the State Small Business Credit Initiative comes from the federal government.
That's what I thought.
You start with Congress, the administration comes up with a program, they put all kinds of guardrails, then the Treasury has its views of what is appropriate, Then, we have to go through all of the different divisions of the state that control money, including the controller's office and others. And everybody is very sensitive to fraud and things. And I will say that the program, even that 800 million, is like performed so phenomenally. The feds, they stood up the PPP program very quickly, and I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking, but it was just like, let's get this money out there, right? So generally with the capital access programs and others, there are standards of underwriting and lending that are deemed to be appropriate. There's sort of industry standards and government standards, and there are so many layers of people who are watching how this money goes out to make sure that fraud is minimized and that the purposes are other money that we're spending is money that was appropriated by the legislature, the state legislature. So they have views to make sure that it's going to the targeted purpose that they want it to go to, and again, that there isn't fraud. So it's always a balancing act. But I will say that I think we have good people here who are trying to use the opportunities that we have now with technology and other things to maybe make it simpler to apply, even if you still have the criteria that you have to meet, but also to try and be thoughtful about, as we've gone into funding businesses that we may never have funded before, like, with these relief grants, there hadn't been a lot of funding of retail businesses before. There hadn't been, so what have we learned from these experiences? And what have we learned about the capacity that people have? And I'm always advocating, when I ran the Long Island City Partnership, business assistance was the founding principle of that organization. It started the Long Island City Business Development Corporation. And being able to bring in the direct experience that I had from years previous as well, but what was it like helping a business apply for one of these? In this case, it was a grant through another organization, but that the city had funded. In the depths of COVID, my wonderful staff person spent 3 hours on the phone with one of our business owners, because that, for him to get a $10,000 grant, because he specifically was exactly in the target zone for that grant. But his business was devastated. So it was a pizza and deli, and he was still getting orders in some days from a government agency that was nearby, which traditionally ordered lots and lots of lunches from him. But he had nobody there but himself. So he's taking the order, making the pizza, making the delivery on the cell phone with my team as they're walking him through to get all the questions answered and so on and so forth, to get that $10,000 grant, which was an incredible lifeline at the time. So understanding firsthand what the business owner is dealing with. And similarly, we were the industrial business service provider. So working with, is a 100-person business is a small business, right? So you have a 100-person manufacturer, 200-person manufacturer. I know it's highly unlikely that you have an HR department, a finance person, an admin person. You, the owner, and maybe your second in command are taking the orders, developing business, dealing with the bank, dealing with the accountant, dealing with the, whoever. So you don't have, it's not like you just say, oh, we need these 6 documents. So-and-so, go get these 6 documents. You have to find the 6 documents. So understanding what a burden it is every time you add another element to it. And again, I think that's why, particularly now, one of the good things that's come out of COVID is that there's so much more that's done online now. So rather than you having to copy things and this and that and find them in a shoebox, if you get your 10 basic organizational documents online and on your file system in a PDF where you can, you put it somewhere, then when you have that application, you're just clicking and moving and clicking and moving. So again, I can't stress enough how taking that time to deal with the trusted advisors in the community, go to the chamber, you guys, everybody does these wonderful seminars, how to be ready for your loan. You get banks on and how to, listen to those, take the half an hour and be on Zoom or go to the session and get that pre-information so that you get yourself organized in a chaotic and disorganized world. It's the biggest thing. And then it's, have an accountant.
Yeah.
Interestingly, also, one of the things that one of the lenders was talking about was don't just do what your accountant says necessarily. Your accountant might want you to show a loss on your tax bill because that's good for your taxes, but that does not look good when you are going in to get a loan. So, be actively engaged. Don't just sign things, right? But again, I think talking to resource networks and so on can clue you into that. Talking to your community lenders before you want to ask them for money to say, am I in good shape, right? And they will do that because they want to give you money. That is their purpose. And that's why they're getting money from us to make that loan to you. But they can't do it either if you don't meet basic requirements. And again, I would just say, while whoever's in front of you is the one you're going to blame, just realize that we're at the end of a chain of federal regulators, state regulators, city regulators, banking industry practices, all this kind of stuff, that unfortunate. And, the politicians appropriate this money and they have their ideas and they have their concerns. And, that's, you got to pay attention to that as well, because nobody wants to be the one who created a program in which 90% of the money went to people who shouldn't have gotten it.
That's it. I will tell you, Liz, that your answer was spectacular. And I'll tell you why, because sometimes coming from us, right, as a third party, fourth party, we try to explain that. And they ask us all these questions, and you have made it so very clear. And coming from an expert like yourself really helps send the message that when we as an organization, a chamber, express very similar, not to the detail in which your knowledge affords, which I hope to one day be able to express, that the businesses understand that it's not that we're turning them away. It's that these things are real conversations, that everybody has the best interest in mind for our businesses, and we can tell them till we're blue in the face. And this recording will be exactly what they need to hear, so that they understand that we're working with you and the likes of, well, we don't go as far as the feds, we depend on the state, but that this is exactly what we've been telling them, that our job is to handhold and get them through those documents that are on the PDF, that they can load them up. So I super applaud you for that answer, because that's what we will be using as our go-to to be able to express the fact that we are all on the same side, and we want to be the technical side of it all, right? We want those documents. And when you said get an accountant, that's music to our ears, because if we say that once, we say it 100 times. Please get an accountant, and yes, show your credit score and all of the stuff that you guys have taught us. So this has been, I really applaud you for that answer, because it's exactly what we wanted to hear. Very specific, very caring. And I thank you for that. Really, that was exactly what I needed to take from this coffee conversation. So thank you.
My pleasure. Excellent to have this opportunity.
Absolutely. Liz, we've got a couple questions that are coming up in the chat. And just to go back on what Liz and Lisa were saying, the first thing that a lot of the folks at the chamber team, our bid business development teams always say is no one's paperwork is perfect, right? So acknowledging how bad the bad is always the first step, because then we can actually help our businesses. So it's not to be embarrassed or say, oh, I didn't do my tax filing in 2018. That's fine, it's fixable. But we have to know what needs to be fixed first. And I think, we have a nice group of organizations in the Bronx that have people who are dedicated to do just that. And I know the SBRN team dropped some info in the chat box. I would also encourage folks to, on the capital side, visit the program partners. So Bach Capital, which is run by Bachnet and Nancy Karen, Credit Inc. under the Sobro umbrella with Lourdes Zapata, to really drill down and see how the CDFIs work, because they're a little bit more character-based. You still have to go through underwriting standards, and that's actually one of the questions that I have for you, Liz. But you know, that they're the real grassroots lenders on the ground. So Liz, teeing that up, quick question: in terms of underwriting standards for some of the programs, are they flexible? Or are they more along the lines of what a traditional commercial bank would require?
Well, and now you're getting deeper than I can technically answer, but I will say that we are working with CDFIs and other community lenders who have, you know, as you said, a more understanding way of going through things, and are themselves generally more flexible. They still have standards, they still have rules, but they look at more at the whole person, the whole company. And Michael, what you said about nobody's paperwork is perfect, and nobody's story is just an upward trajectory. And again, I just want to quote one of my colleagues who was speaking, who was saying, have your story and tell it, explain. Like, don't hide, like, if you had a year with no money or you had some problem, don't walk in and don't explain that. Come in with your explanation. Why did that happen? Maybe you had an accident, maybe you went through a divorce, maybe, you know, there was a fire, maybe something. Tell that story, because then people can work with it. Because what they're trying to do is determine whether you are a good credit risk. And they have to understand how you handle success and how you handle adversity. And it's not that you never had adversity, it's what did you do about it? So that character basis is important. It is part of what they're doing, which is different than just a traditional bank. And again, that's the reason why we put money into these programs and these institutions, is to get money to people who the traditional banking industry has not been serving. And so, you know, that is the opportunity here. It's both to get it, in other words, have somebody say yes instead of no, but also to get it at a rate that is going to be more affordable for you. And now that rates are going up, this is even more important again.
And I think that's a great tip. You know, I think letting our business owners understand that not all life in business is rosy. There are ups and downs, and how you deal with your ups and downs are really what informs the character when you're going to lending. I think that's actually a really great takeaway tip, because I think a lot of people think on a loan application, if I just fudge the numbers, or if I tell my accountant to do X, Y, and Z, I'll look better. But I think the actuality of it is people really want to see how you run a business, and how you can overcome a global pandemic or a recession, and so many of those other things.
And do you have a plan?
Right, exactly. And do you have a plan, and can your plan be adapted based on the ground conditions, you know, to make sure that you can see market gaps, or capitalize on things that maybe you didn't initially think you could do. So in some of your remarks, you had mentioned Series A and Series B companies. Can you just give a quick high-level overview of what the difference between a Series A and Series B company is?
Yes, very high level.
Very high level, not specific.
I would recommend. No, I was just going to say that there's actually great resources online. You know, just Google Venture 101. You know, and there's some great things. But basically, it has to do with how far along you are in developing your idea. So, you know, seed, you need money to make a prototype and to start, you know, getting out investors. Series A, you're going to be doing more, you're going to further develop that prototype, signing up customers. Series B, you're kind of going to scale, and it has to do with the rounds that you're raising. So Series A is your first, like, I'm going out and I'm raising a lot of money from different people. And Series B, you're going to raise even more money to do more things. And it's what that money is used for, whether it's for sort of internal getting your business up and running, you know, like early stage money, they want you to hire a team. They want you to, you know, start getting your suppliers together. They want you to have your proof of prototype and concept of, that could be a software prototype, that could be a hardware prototype. Series B, you're starting to take this to scale, and then you get beyond that. So the money is being given to you by the investors to do different things at different stages, and they take a stake in your company in return for their investment. And the earlier people get in, the bigger stake they can take in your investment. But there's a lot of things in addition to what we do, like Google, Amazon, others are all like investing now in specific funds that may be targeted at Latinx or African American or gender, so it's a really good time in a way to be an underappreciated founder, because a lot of people are starting to appreciate you.
That's a great tip. And I think maybe for another webinar, Lisa, we should probably maybe go through how to do a capital raise, right? How to particularly with entrepreneurs out there, it's an intimidating process. From the nonprofit world, asking anyone for money is always intimidating, but from the for-profit world, it can be even more intimidating. And
we'd be happy when we're in our phase there to come back and talk more about that too.
That would be awesome. And then just two last questions before we close out, because I want to be aware of time. One is you got lots of hearts and hand claps when we mentioned the New York State Seed Grant program, the $200 million pot that was released. One, because you partnered with Lendistry, and people said the application process was so much easier than PPP and any others that existed. So kudos to you on that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And then, there's a question, is there an ETA on notifications of the funds to applicants, or is that being held until the application closes?
No, they are starting. We've been just so many people apply. So Lendistry is working through the applications, and it's not going to all happen at the end. But we were closing out the 800 million as we were starting up the 200 million, and it's all Lendistry, so they're working their way through. And I would just say, if you did apply, just make sure that you finished your application. It's amazing how many people don't. And so if you're double check that if you see, and just be on the lookout for any notifications. We hate it when somebody who seems eligible misses because they didn't put in a piece of paper. If somebody contacts you from Lendistry,
and I've got to say,
and similarly, the EACs are doing assistance, to do outreach to people. It's exciting how popular it's been.
And Lendistry has absolutely been great. We've had a couple businesses who have had called, to check up on their applications. And what's great about it is that you actually speak to someone. It's not going through an automated series, and it's actually very helpful to our businesses and calms their hearts a little bit. Yeah, really great rollout on that. I think it's an excellent tool. And then just lastly, to finish out, because it's been on the lips of a lot of the people on the chamber board and a lot of folks, particularly people who may have been in the manufacturing sector but are looking towards tech. Can you speak just a little bit on life sciences in New York City? It's really exciting. I feel like life sciences, cybersecurity, these are areas that New York is really, could really be positioned as the leader on. And I know there was some significant investment in nanotech upstate and all sorts of things.
Yep.
Do you think there are some areas where maybe the Bronx could benefit from, investigating these programs in a broad, planned way?
That's a very huge question.
It's enormous. I'm sorry.
But yes, I think that what's life science is something that I've also spent a lot of time on prior to being here. Long Island City is developing as a hub for life science, and this is so the state and the city both in 2018 announced combined over $1 billion investment. The state's program is over $500 million in our life science initiative, but we also are investing through our venture in life science companies, our regional offices, fund projects. There's a whole bunch of things, so it's much more than that. what the impetus for this is that New York City and New York State is one of the leading, if not the leading place with academic medical institutions, research institutions, all these things, but was lagging behind on life science. You know, the entrepreneurial and business side of life sciences to Massachusetts and California. And so a series of strategic projects, investments, both in the state and the city, designed to really catalyze and change the conditions so that all of that good research could be translated into great companies and great initiatives. So, you know, we've done things like recruit, like some of the best accelerator programs in the world to be in New York, and they're bearing incredible fruit. We've invested in different technologies, different centers, et cetera. So all these strategic, really looking to not just do a 1-for-1, okay, here's $1, now you do something. It's like, here's $1 that's going to turn into, $100 million, and change the conditions. So for example, one of the things that's been lacking in New York State was the business talent for life science companies. So we're now going into we created a program where we are funding people in business schools who are going to be in life science. That's a big need. So there's a lot of different things going on. We're now 5 years into the strategy. We're doing a deep dive again to sort of look, what are the same gaps today, the ones that were 5 years ago. We've shot up tremendously in terms of the amount of federal science funding we get, venture funds, things like that, but there's still a long way to go. So I would say that it's still a time for strategic projects. The city's funding a bunch, we're funding a bunch initiative. If there's good things that are going on and people who want to be involved, but even if it's not something utterly new, but you have a great medical device program, a company or something like that, even if it isn't directly through our life science initiative, there might be other ways in which we can help you, and including making connections, helping you go to scale, think about new technologies. There's been a lot of other federal money like these biodefense grants. There's supply chain money from the Defense Department and others that again might be useful to your company if you're in these fields, because nobody wants us to be as vulnerable as we have been to not having things developed in the United States, in New York State.
Absolutely, and that's super helpful. I know that there are a lot of friends of the chamber and members of the chamber who've recently acquired a lot of acreage, and their thoughts were to turn it into a life science campus in partnership with a lot of our leading hospitals. So knowing that is out on the horizon is so helpful to so many people here. And then we always like to end. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, there's just one other thing I just wanted to mention, which is there's also a lot of money that's come in for workforce development, and we are some of that's through the State Department of Labor, but the Economic Development arm now has its Office of Strategic Workforce Development that's being launched. And in life sciences is one of the areas where there's tremendous opportunities coming to get into the careers in life science, and as well as job training for manufacturing and so on. So there's a lot of opportunities if I want to get involved and be someone who's in these industries, even if I'm not the business owner, there's a lot of support coming up for that as well.
That is awesome.
A lot through community colleges, so pay attention to your community college programs.
And a lot of this is going to be posted up on the ESD website, which we dropped in the chat. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's going to be press announcements, right, and all sorts of things that accompany it. That's awesome. Right. And I, for one, really think it's great, because one of the biggest priorities in the Bronx is how do we get our professionals who may have gone out of state to go to university. We've got people who went to Georgetown or Yale. How do we get them to come back and contribute to our local economies and really attract that talent? I think this is a great way of doing it. I wish they were around when I went to school. So Liz, we always close out on a high note. And we ask every one of our guests who come on, to close out the coffee and conversation. What are you most hopeful about for our New York economy or our localized economies? What would you say is, what is that energy that makes you get up in the morning and you say, I've got hope. This is what I'm hopeful for.
Innovation is a word that gets used so much that feels like it doesn't have meaning. But I have seen every day throughout the 5 boroughs, throughout the state, what New York is really all about, which is the most innovative people in the world doing incredible things to improve their communities, the planet. I mean, the ideas that are coming out of New Yorkers to do great things, whether it's life science, climate tech, advanced manufacturing, sustainable agriculture, breweries, whatever. The spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship is alive and well in New York City and New York State. And even though we're still hurting, I think that the new appreciation that I see, broadly speaking, for this work, for these people, for these companies, is so gratifying to me. It's why I am here, because I feel like there are people who now get it. They get what it takes to be an entrepreneur. They get why it's so important that we support not just our local coffee shop, which we absolutely should, but also our local coffee roaster and the person who is figuring out how we grow coffee in an environmentally sound way. And so that gets me really excited every day.
That is so awesome. And Lisa, I know you've got some closing remarks, and then we'll close it out with where people can find more information. But Liz, this has been such a great conversation, and what a wonderful day to start a morning. We're pumped and energized to take on the world now. So Lisa, take it away.
Well, we do it together, right, Michael?
That's right.
I want to thank all the participants who are here. Liz, this is so much more informative than I even thought I can get from this. I'm taking away so much great information. My team is. This is what Coffee and Conversation is about, right? Where in a casual setting, we can really hear from the experts, put in some hope in the fact that what we're doing is great, that there's so many advocates for our businesses, and that we have leaders like yourself who can guide us, champion for us. And I'm really thrilled. It's great to see you. Your information is so valuable, and I really thank you for taking the time out to share that with the chamber and all our members and everybody who's listening. And so truly, from the bottom of my heart, we thank you. And we will become partners, because we will definitely be reaching out to continue to learn from you all that is available to our constituents.
Yes, thank you so much, Liz. We really, really appreciate it. And all of this information can be found on the Bronx Chamber website, www.bronxchamber.org. If you're interested in other events that are associated with the Chamber, please go to the events page. Our next Coffee and Conversation will feature Council Member Rafael Salamanca, the chair of the Land Use Committee, speaking about new zoning text amendments and development projects that are happening in the Bronx, and also life sciences. We're very excited about that. But again, Liz Lusskin, Executive VP for Small Business and Technology at Empire State Development. We are so grateful for you and your expertise coming and joining us today. And for all the attendees, both on the web and in our Zoom, we'll be following up with the video link, so you can rewatch this. We'll also have bullet points on where you can find the information, and we will keep you abreast of more news and announcements that come from Empire State Development as more programs are launched and rolled out. So again, Liz, thank you so much for all of your work for New York City, New York State. We are so proud to call you a friend and ally.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.